They want to have a meeting with me, right? It will be me, McCluskey, and Soletso. Let's set the meeting. Get our informers to find out where it's going to be held.
Hey, Mike, are you sure about that? Mo loves the business. He never said nothing to me about selling.
Well, I'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
So let's just say that you'll pay me because it's in your interest to pay me. But I want your answer and the money by noon tomorrow.
You can have my answer now if you like. My offer is this.
Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money,
Dollar, 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 dollar.
The Thunder just got their biggest free agent signing in franchise history. Starting on June 30th at 5 p.m. Central, the floodgates opened as the 2024 NBA free agency period began. Deals slowly started trickling in from all over the league, but Thunder fans would have to wait until July 1st to see the Woj and Shams news-breaking tweets involving OKC. To begin, it was Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe both agreeing to deals that would have them return on multi-year extensions, with Wiggins getting $47 million over 5 years and Joe earning $48 million over the next 4. But those deals were the calm before the storm of the big deal that was to come. It was reported by Shams Charania, according to his sources, that the OKC Thunder were in Eugene, Oregon, set to meet with Isaiah Hartenstein on June 30th after the opening of free agency. Thunder fans, being the lovable but deranged bunch that they are, put on their detective hats and searched through public flight records to see when Presti and co. likely left Eugene on a flight back to OKC.
These flight records.
Whatever sales pitch that Presti had, whether it had gone well or poorly, we had no idea. What was done is done, and now we wait. On July 1st at 8:58 a.m. Central, Woj broke the news that the Thunder had just agreed to sign Isaiah Hartenstein to a massive 3-year deal worth $87 million to pry him away from the New York Knicks. Thunder fans rejoiced after years where the team's biggest free agency additions ever were the likes of Patrick Patterson and Anthony Morrow, who were nice players but not on the level of Hartenstein. OKC had finally caught a pretty big fish in the #1 free agent center on the market in 2024. I know there was a lot of sticker shock for fans seeing the number Hartenstein fetched as somewhat of a Godfather offer from OKC, and I'll expand on that later as to why it isn't as bad as it looks at face value. But first, let's get into some on-the-court stuff and what Isaiah Hartenstein brings to OKC. Standing at 7 feet tall and weighing 250 pounds with a 7'2¼ wingspan, the 26-year-old Hartenstein is far and away the most traditional big man the Thunder have rostered since Steven Adams. Hartenstein, through 6 seasons, has never scored more than 20 points, but that's okay, because he won't be asked to do that on this team, and they don't really have to rely on him for points. Hartenstein at his core is a true blue glue guy and role player. That's how he's been able to stick in the league as a former second-round pick, to establishing himself now as a player worthy of this big deal from the Thunder. He isn't a post-up powerhouse type of player that you dump the ball off to, but he has really nice touch as a lefty on a lot of these hook shots and at-rim finishes. And if you are playing against a team with heavy switch coverages, it does give the Thunder a nice extra wrinkle they have not had in a while, and a big who can roll and post a mismatch for an easy bucket. It's an extremely small thing, but something that I noticed that I really like about Hartenstein's game is that he's very quick to attack and decisive when he catches the ball around the rim. There isn't very much, if any, wasted motion trying to massage the ball and show off his post moves just to show that he has them. It's a catch and immediately going to work, whether that's the back to the basket spin or just going straight up with it off the catch. At his size with OKC's spacing, I think we will see him a lot in the dunker spot, which is a place on the floor the Thunder have not been able to weaponize as much with the above-the-rim threats on the weak side. He isn't a super high-level athlete, but with his size combined with his strength to put himself in good position, he can be a really useful lob threat when defenses are slacking or his man leaves him to help. In a similar vein to the dunker spot, Hartenstein is a really smart cutter who can quickly identify and take up space when windows of opportunity open up. He does a great job as a big rim runner and being active in transition to make himself available for dump-offs and easy buckets before the defense can get set, which tracks to blend well with the youth and athleticism of the Thunder. I have mentioned in past videos that the Thunder are not a great offensive rebounding team, and to a large degree punt on that variable to prioritize transition defense. But part of why OKC doesn't chase offensive rebounds very frequently is the lack of personnel to do it. This is a really nice spot for Hartenstein to slide in to make an immediate impact and give the Thunder a change-up pitch from last season. He's no Moses Malone, but Hartenstein last season was a massive factor in the Knicks being the best offensive rebounding team in the NBA, as he was top 7 in individual offensive rebounds per game, grabbing 3.3 offensive boards a night, and 2.3 of those came as contested rebounds. He has a high motor and plays with tremendous effort, which gives him extra bites at the apple for more glass cleaning opportunities. Getting a little bit into the numbers, according to the NBA's player tracking data, in the regular season, Hartenstein averaged 6.5 chances for offensive rebounds a game and came down with the ball in 49.8% of those instances. This aspect of his game translated extremely well to the playoffs too, where he was second in offensive rebounds per game in the postseason at 3.8 a game, and 3 of those coming as contested rebounds. From the same NBA tracking data mentioned before, Hartenstein in the playoffs averaged 7.6 offensive rebound chances a game and grabbed the board and converted on 49.5% of those chances. As for his shooting, the Thunder really leaned into a 5-out offense as a team. Unfortunately, this is not an aspect of the game that Hartenstein thrives in. Being only 26 and shooting free throws at a 70% clip last season, I don't think you can rule out him ever extending his range in his career, but in the meantime, I would not expect him to rain threes. Last season, he shot 33% from 3, which isn't terrible until you look and see that it was on 1 of 3 shooting, and this shot right here was his only make as a late shot clock heave. In his career, the most threes he's made in a game is 2, and the most he's attempted is 4. The most threes he's ever taken in a season is 37. For reference, Chet beat both of those career highs in single game makes and attempts by his second NBA game, and Chet in his first 11 games attempted more threes than Hartenstein has in any total season. I've seen a few people bring up Hartenstein's 2020-2021 season where he shot 46.7% from 3 on 14 out of 30 shooting. In response, I would say that small sample sizes can be dangerous. I did some research and learned that the average lead when Hartenstein made a 3 that season was just over 20 points. 10 of the 14 makes were during fourth quarters, and only 2 of his makes all season occurred in games with a single-digit deficit, and those were all in the first half. This isn't the end-all be-all. At 26, he still has a runway to improve as a shooter, and in OKC, he will get to work with one of the great shooting coaches ever in Chip England. At his introductory presser, he mentioned that he can really expand his game in OKC, so the shooting volume could increase, but I'm not expecting him to turn into a dead-eye shooter overnight. It isn't a shot you see a lot of, but Hartenstein really loves this little push floater with his left hand. You'll see him flip these up from outside the restricted area. He really loved getting to this shot in the first round of the playoffs against the 76ers to get a cleaner look at the basket, rather than driving into a mammoth of a defender and shot blocker like Joel Embiid. I'm not totally sure how you can really consistently implement this into an offense, but it's a nice extra tool to have in your back pocket. Being essentially a non-shooter from outside 10 to 12 feet, you would expect that Hartenstein would have to hurt the Thunder's spacing when he's on the floor, but Hartenstein's abilities as a passer are a great answer to when he has the ball and his man dares him to shoot. This might be the right idea, but the wrong player to do it against. With Hartenstein already being a nice passer, putting zero pressure on him and backing up is going to make those passes for him to make that much easier. He loves hitting his teammates on cuts and will even at times direct traffic if he sees an open space and gestures to his teammates to an open spot to cut where he can hit his man on the numbers with a dime. He has really nice touch where he can throw really soft passes over the top while also, if needed, can sling a bounce pass to a live cutter. His basketball IQ really shines when he's playmaking. You can really tell that he processes the game quickly and doing it while making the right decision pretty consistently. Some bigs can look panicked or uncomfortable when they have to pass out of pressure and in crowded situations. Hartenstein does a great job of keeping his composure and eyes up for potential passing opportunities around him. He also loves to hit the occasional down-court outlet pass, which should be fun to see on a Thunder team that likes to get out in transition. It's one thing to be able to see some of these passing lanes and angles. It's a whole nother thing to be able to make these passes. Hartenstein reminds me of some of the old Spurs bigs like Boris Diaw, who weren't playmaking hubs, but were very capable of making pocket passes and more in an impactful way. It should be really fun to see how he plays off a lot of the dynamic players OKC can put on the floor with him. As soon as Hartenstein stepped onto OKC's soil, he immediately became the best screener on the roster. Whether it's setting off-the-ball screens to open up shooters like Isaiah Joe, or on the ball to get his teammates space to get downhill, which I think we're going to see a lot of this coming season, he adds an extra big body and screening dynamic that the Thunder just didn't have last season. And it isn't just screen and then he's done for the rest of the possession. Hartenstein does a great job rolling to the rim while also not clogging the paint up too much for the ball handler if they try to get to the rim. Hartenstein does a great job of keeping his hands up so he's always ready if the ball handler does end up dropping it off to him. A really fun and dangerous way to combine Hartenstein's talents as a screener and passer is to use him on the short roll. where out of a pick and roll, he doesn't have to dive all the way to the rim. The ball handler sort of checks the ball down to Hartenstein around the free throw line, and then it's a 4-on-3 scenario with the ball in his hands. This goes back to his high feel, processing speed, and ability to be decisive. He will have all types of weapons around him to use, with elite shooters and dynamic cutters that I can't wait to see how he utilizes. Switching over to the defensive side of the floor, Hartenstein is very fundamentally sound as a shot blocker, going straight up and vertical, and often not even leaving his feet for these stuffs. Last season, he was one of 11 rotational players to average 1 steal and a block per game, joining the likes of Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Davis, and Alex Caruso. He isn't going to jump out of the gym and spike block shots, but the numbers don't lie and show that he's really effective protecting the basket, with opponents shooting 52.5% at the rim, on which he's in the same territory as Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama last season. He's an expert in drop coverage situations with the cat and mouse game of the pick and roll. He keeps the play in front of him and does a great job of not really biting to get himself out of position. He has a real knack for guarding 2 guys at once to buy his screen teammate time to get back into the play. The NBA is becoming more and more switch-heavy. Hartenstein, although not extremely quick-footed, is not only able to hold his own in these situations, but produce at a level that is in the 75th percentile of all players this season, only allowing 0.8 points per possession. And this is not a small sample size either, as he was put into 644 possessions in this action. The tough reality is that most bigs are going to get fried off the dribble by the elite perimeter players, but Hartenstein is way above average and tracks to be able to hold his own in a lot of these situations. As for his role on this Thunder team, I think we'll see him a lot as a bruiser, rebounder, rim protector, play finisher, and secondary playmaker who maximizes the stars around him in a variety of lineups. We should get a lot of Hartenstein and Chet minutes together, which should be super interesting. Hartenstein can guard the more low post heavy bigs, which allows Chet to roam more freely as a shot blocker and help wherever he's needed. Offensively, Hartenstein may not be a shooter, as I mentioned, but his playmaking will complement Chet as a spacer and vertical threat. Playing dual big lineups has become more popular recently with the success of the Bucks with Brook Lopez and Giannis, the Celtics with Horford and Porzingis, and the Wolves with Towns and Gobert, to name a few. For my entertainment, Mark, please give us a pick and roll with Chet as the ball handler and Hartenstein screening. Just for science, I just want to see it.
Let's talk money. Dollars and cents, Wes.
We already know the salaries added of Hartenstein at $87 million over 3 years, Wiggins at $47 million over 5 years, and Isaiah Joe at $48 million over 4 years. But soon it'll be time to pay the piper. In the next 2 seasons, Chet Holmgren and J-Dub will both be up for rookie extensions that right now absolutely project to be rookie maxes. For reference, Scotty Barnes signed a rookie max extension this summer for $224 million over 5 years that comes out to just under $45 million annually. That's the territory J-Dub and Chet will likely be in, and their numbers can go up if either were to, under their current deals, make at least 2 All-NBA teams, be voted an All-Star, starter by the fans, or win an MVP. This might not be the most likely scenario, but it's possible, and that would boost their deals from taking up 25% of OKC's cap to 30% each. And those 2 deals aren't even really the big fish when it comes to future money.
There's always a bigger fish.
Coming down the pipeline is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when he becomes eligible for a new deal. According to ESPN's NBA cap expert Bobby Marks, that next deal could lead to Shai being the first player in NBA history to make $80 million annually, as he already tracks to fetch a supermax contract from the Thunder, which takes up a whopping 35% of OKC's cap.
Tell them to bring me my money.
The Thunder were in a bit of a use it or lose it situation with this cap room, and I like how they used it. This reminds me of the NFL's obsession with rookie quarterback contracts, where the teams can afford to put a great cast around a rising young franchise QB before he gets his eventual big payday that will make roster building much more difficult at a high level. It's a good problem to have to pay all your young stars who have panned out, but it can still be problematic with the shadow hanging over teams with the new enacted first apron and super restrictive second apron that make trading almost impossible, as well as adding buyout players, and finally first round picks being frozen and untradeable or sent to the back of the first round regardless of team record.
Where is it? Where's the rest? The money, Skylar. Where is the rest? Skylar, where is the money?
But let's all just take a deep breath. These numbers are heavy, but luckily the most recent signings of Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe are long-term and could look like bargains as impact players next to OKC's core in the next few years. Hartenstein is getting a massive deal, but that comes off the books in time for Dub and Chet to get their rookie extensions along with Shea's Supermax. And then the depth of players on the rookie scale contracts like Case and Wallace as bargains can balance things out with the larger number contracts, but really the only concern that I have next is extending Alex Caruso, but I doubt Presti would have made that trade if he didn't feel pretty confidently that a deal couldn't be made. OKC ownership at times in the past has shown a willingness to spend when they feel they have a contender post-2012 finals run, and if everything pans out, this should be a team worthy of spending and spending to keep together. I mentioned rookie scale deals. The Thunder, as everyone knows, hold a ton of first-round picks with 13 first-rounders on the horizon from now through the year 2030. With OKC's great track record of drafting and developing players, you hope to find some cheap bargain contributors this way, but the picks can also be used in other situations too. We've seen salary dumps where a team sends draft compensation attached to bad money contracts to clear up cap. The Thunder, with their war chest of picks, if they find themselves in a bind with a contract they don't want, they should be able to pivot by using those picks and move that contract for more flexibility without uprooting a ton of the roster. So is the cap something to worry about? I'd say let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but it's absolutely something I would keep an eye on as a factor for this team in the near future. Luckily, with likely many tough decisions coming down the road, the Thunder have a man at the top who's been planning a lot of this for years and who I expect to be as prepared as anyone can be for when the time comes. Which is a pretty long-winded but accurate title, so for the sake of time and matching the theme of this video, let's just say he's the Godfather of Thunder basketball. In his time, he's made a number of monumental deals along with a couple of historic off-seasons. This summer, as mentioned earlier, Presti extended Wiggins and Joe along with the headliner of nabbing Hartenstein. We may only be a week removed from the start of free agency, but 2024 is shaping up to be among Presti's best summers as the Godfather of Thunder basketball. But there is a deal that had to be made for the Hartenstein acquisition to even become possible. The Gordon Hayward trade, probably not the first thing that comes to your mind, but this trade was a vital factor in the domino effect that led to Hartenstein's signing. At this NBA season's trade deadline, many were hoping and praying for the Thunder to make a big trade to boost a potential playoff run. The deal that was eventually made was trading Tre Mann, Vasa Micic, and Davis Bertans along with 2 second-round picks to the Hornets plus cash in exchange for Gordon Hayward. This was a trade that I somewhat pitched back in October on a podcast, and I was pretty excited to hear about the deal. I saw it as a young Thunder team adding a vet who can add to their success while also providing a $33 million expiring salary. Unfortunately, the basketball fit was not there as many fans and myself had hoped. We get to the offseason and Isaiah Hartenstein looks like he would be a great complement to the Thunder roster, and thanks to the addition of Gordon Hayward's big deal now expiring and off the OKC books, the Thunder would now be able to have the cap space outright to sign Hartenstein with a big offer while also extending Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. I think it's safe to say that Presti probably would have hoped Hayward's stint would have gone better, but I'm even more sure that the cap space opened up was not by accident. I think it's safe to say that Presti probably would have hoped Hayward's stint would have gone better, but I'm even more sure that that cap space opened up was not by accident.
Everything is going according to my plan.
Without that trade, OKC would still have Bertans on a 1-year deal for $17 million, Micic for $7.7 million annually for 2 more years, and finally Tre Mann coming up for his next deal. Needless to say, the Hayward trade was vital in opening up this window of opportunity to even have a serious chance in pursuing Hartenstein, so it wasn't all bad in Hayward's time here, plus we got to hear him bark in that post-game that one time. The question has to be at least asked or raised of who will be the 5th man for the Thunder joining Shea, Dort, Dub, and Chet in the starting lineup. My answer to that question is kind of a non-answer. I think we'll see Mark Daigneault shuffle through a few guys and see what works. The Boston Celtics are a good blueprint for OKC to learn from with this idea, where they had 6 starter caliber players in Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, Porzingis, and Horford. The Celtics would adapt their starting 5 based on the opponent's personnel, just starting Porzingis if the other team didn't have any super threatening bigs in their starting 5, and then on the flip side, Horford and Porzingis would often start together to match up against other teams with a lot of size in their starting lineup. After this historic summer for the Thunder, OKC has jumped to the top as the betting favorites to come out of the West this next season, but I'm more curious about your thoughts than Vegas. But what do you think? Was the Hartenstein deal an overpay? How do you see his offensive fit with the Thunder? Does this make the Thunder the best defense in the NBA next season? Who should join Shea, Dort, J-Dub, and Chet as the 5th OKC starter? Which is better, Whataburger or Brahms? And finally, after all these offseason moves, are the Thunder really the favorites in the West next season? All major questions that all hold the same value, but let me hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed what you watched today, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a like and subscribe to my channel so I can keep making fun videos like this. And until next time, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn how great of a fit Alex Caruso is on the Thunder, click this right here.